In 1977, a Japanese fishing trawler hauled up something impossible from the waters off New Zealand. The crew watched as their nets brought up a massive, decaying carcass, 30 feet long, weighing 4,000 pounds, with a long neck, 4 flippers, and a tail. The smell was so overwhelming, they could only photograph it before throwing it back into the ocean. Analysis of tissue samples showed it was unlike any known animal. Scientists couldn't definitively identify it. The crew believed they'd caught a plesiosaur, a marine reptile that supposedly went extinct 65 million years ago. Whatever it was, it suggests that the oceans may hide creatures science hasn't documented. I'm Detective Vera Nash, and today we're investigating 10 creatures that exist in the gray zone between myth and reality. These aren't folklore or fantasy. These are animals that have been seen, photographed, and in some cases, physically encountered by credible witnesses. Some have left behind physical evidence: footprints, hair samples, carcasses. A few have been captured on film or video, yet none have been definitively proven to exist by science. The creatures we're investigating today fall into a category called cryptids, animals whose existence is disputed or unsubstantiated. But here's what makes them interesting. Many animals now accepted by science were once considered cryptids. The mountain gorilla wasn't confirmed to exist until 1902. The giant squid was legend until a specimen was captured in 1873. The coelacanth was thought extinct for 65 million years until one was caught in 1938. So the question isn't whether unknown animals exist. They do. New species are discovered constantly. The question is whether any of the legendary creatures we're about to discuss could be among them. Welcome to the Case Files. Let's investigate the creatures that might be real. The orang pendek. In the dense rainforests of Sumatra, Indonesia, local people have reported encounters with a creature they call orang pendek, the short person. Descriptions are consistent. A bipedal ape-like creature standing 3 to 5 feet tall, covered in short golden or reddish-brown hair, with a muscular build and distinctly human-like face. It walks upright, but can move through the forest canopy with remarkable agility. What makes orang pendek compelling is the quality and consistency of sightings. These aren't vague reports from unreliable sources. British explorer Deborah Martyr spent 15 years in Sumatra studying the creature and had multiple sightings. She described it as clearly not a known primate, not an orangutan, not a gibbon, not any recognized species. Her detailed field notes documented behavior, movement patterns, and physical characteristics. In 2001, researcher Adam Davies led an expedition that found footprints clearly showing a 5-toed bipedal creature with a divergent big toe, similar to human or ape feet, but matching no known animal in the region. The prints were analyzed by primatologists who confirmed they were neither human nor from any known Indonesian primate. Hair samples have been collected and analyzed. DNA testing showed the samples were from an unknown primate, not matching orangutan, gibbon, or human. The hair structure was unusual, with characteristics that didn't fit any cataloged species. The most intriguing evidence is behavioral. Local people distinguish orang pendek from other forest animals with specific details. They describe it as shy but curious, occasionally stealing fruit from plantations, leaving distinctive footprints, and making specific vocalizations. These consistent descriptions across different regions and time periods suggest people are seeing the same thing. Skeptics argue that orang pendek is likely a misidentified known animal, perhaps a sun bear standing upright, or an orangutan seen from an unusual angle. But this explanation struggles with the specific details. Sun bears don't have the described body proportions or movement patterns. Orangutans have much longer arms and don't walk bipedally with the reported efficiency. The strongest argument for orang pendek's existence is biogeographical. Sumatra is home to numerous endemic species found nowhere else. The island has terrain that's been poorly explored. If an unknown primate species exists anywhere, dense Sumatran rainforest is a plausible location. The creature would need a viable breeding population, but the forests are vast enough to potentially support a small, elusive primate. Orang pendek remains unproven. But unlike many cryptids, It has credible witness testimony, physical evidence that resists easy explanation, and exists in an environment where unknown species remain plausible. The thylacine. The Tasmanian tiger wasn't a legend. It was real, scientifically documented, with specimens in museums. The last known individual died in Hobart Zoo in 1936. The species was declared extinct. Case closed. Except people keep seeing them. Sightings in Tasmania and mainland Australia continue decades after extinction. Could the thylacine still exist? The thylacine was a carnivorous marsupial native to Tasmania, Australia, and New Guinea. It had a dog-like appearance with distinctive tiger-like stripes across its back and a stiff tail. Despite its name and appearance, it was neither tiger nor dog, but a unique marsupial predator. European settlers hunted it extensively, blaming it for livestock deaths. By the 1930s, it was considered nearly extinct. The last captive specimen, named Benjamin, died in 1936. But sightings didn't stop. Thousands of reports have been filed since 1936. Some come from experienced bushmen, wildlife experts, and park rangers, people who know Australian wildlife and wouldn't easily misidentify a dog or fox. The descriptions are consistent. Animal the size of a large dog, yellowish-brown with distinctive stripes, unusual gait, stiff tail, wide jaw gape. In 1982, park ranger Hans Narding reported a detailed nighttime sighting in Tasmania. He watched the animal for several minutes from close range, noted specific features, including the stripes, body proportions, and movement. His report is considered one of the most credible because of his expertise and the duration of observation. Physical evidence occasionally surfaces. Footprints have been found that match thylacine anatomy, showing distinctive pad patterns different from dogs or other carnivores. Hair samples have been analyzed, though DNA results are often inconclusive or disputed. Some researchers claim to have collected scat-matching thylacine digestive signatures. Camera trap studies have been conducted in remote Tasmanian wilderness. In 2017, images were captured showing an animal that some believe shows thylacine characteristics, though analysis is disputed. The images aren't definitive, but they're intriguing enough that research continues. The question is whether a viable breeding population could survive undetected. Tasmania has vast wilderness areas that are rarely explored. The thylacine was nocturnal and shy, avoiding human contact. A small population in remote regions might persist without regular human observation. However, the lack of roadkill, definitive photographs, or remains is concerning. If thylacines exist, they're extraordinarily rare and elusive. Extinction doesn't happen all at once. Species decline over time, and the last individuals can persist for years. It's possible the thylacine survived beyond 1936 in declining numbers. Whether any survive today is uncertain, but the possibility can't be completely dismissed, given the habitat available and the consistency of sightings from credible observers. Mokele-Mbembe. In the remote swamps and rivers of the Congo Basin, local people describe an animal they call Mokele-Mbembe, the one who stops the flow of rivers. Descriptions consistently depict a large creature with a long neck, small head, barrel-shaped body, and a powerful tail. The reported size varies, but typically matches a small elephant in body mass. To Western researchers, the descriptions sound remarkably like a sauropod dinosaur. Multiple expeditions have searched for Mokele-Mbembe. In 1980, American herpetologist Roy McCall led an expedition into the Congo. Local people gave consistent descriptions and pointed to specific lakes and rivers where the creature was seen. They distinguished it clearly from known animals: hippos, crocodiles, elephants. When shown drawings of various animals, including dinosaurs, witnesses consistently identified sauropod dinosaurs as resembling what they'd seen. The problem with Mokele-Mbembe is the lack of physical evidence. No bones, no carcasses, no definitive photographs or video. The Congo Basin is vast and difficult to explore, but a population of large animals should leave some trace. Modern expeditions with camera traps and drones have found nothing conclusive. One intriguing aspect is the consistency across cultures. Different tribes with limited contact describe similar creatures in different parts of the Congo Basin. This suggests either a shared cultural myth or multiple sightings of something real. The descriptions don't match any known living animal perfectly, which is either evidence of something unknown or indication that the reports are unreliable. Skeptics propose several explanations. The creature could be a cultural memory of extinct megafauna passed down through generations. It might be misidentified known animals seen in poor conditions. The long-necked description could come from elephants swimming with trunks raised. Hippos, crocodiles, or pythons seen partially submerged might create the impression of a large, unknown creature. The strongest argument against Mokele-Mbembe is biological. If sauropod dinosaurs survived in Africa, they would need a viable breeding population. This requires hundreds of individuals, which makes concealment highly unlikely. The Congo is remote, but not that remote. A breeding population of large animals would be detected through dung, vegetation damage, carcasses, or direct observation. However, the Congo Basin remains one of the least explored regions on Earth. New species are discovered regularly. While a surviving dinosaur is extraordinarily unlikely, the consistent reports and detailed descriptions suggest people are seeing something. Whether that something is an unknown species, a misidentified known animal, or cultural tradition is unclear. The giant squid and colossal squid. Until the 19th century, stories of massive squid attacking ships were dismissed as sailors' tales and exaggeration. Then, in 1873, a specimen was captured in Newfoundland. The giant squid was real. Since then, we've learned that the ocean hides even larger species. The colossal squid, confirmed in 2007, can reach lengths of 46 feet and weigh up to 1,500 pounds. These aren't cryptids anymore. They're scientifically documented species. But they illustrate an important principle. The ocean is vast, deep, and poorly explored. We've mapped more of the moon's surface than the ocean floor. New marine species are discovered constantly. If giant squid can exist undetected until modern times, what else might be down there? The deep ocean presents unique challenges for cryptid research. Most of it is inaccessible. The pressure at extreme depths prevents casual exploration. Many deep-sea creatures die when brought to the surface due to pressure changes. We rely on indirect evidence, occasional sightings, dead specimens washing ashore, stomach contents of larger predators. Credible reports exist of enormous unidentified marine animals. Sonar has detected massive moving objects at depth that don't match known species. Submarines have reported encounters with huge unidentified creatures. Whale carcasses show bite marks and suction scars from creatures larger than any documented squid species. The ocean could plausibly harbor large unknown species. Food chains exist at extreme depths. Hydrothermal vents support complex ecosystems. The ocean's vastness provides habitat for creatures that rarely encounter humans. Unlike terrestrial cryptids that require explanation for why they're never found, marine cryptids have a ready answer. The ocean is enormous and mostly unexplored. This brings us to other marine cryptids. The Kraken was once legend, now we know it was giant squid. Could other legendary sea monsters be undiscovered species? Cadborosaurus, sea serpents, and various lake monsters all occupy this uncertain territory. Most are probably misidentifications or hoaxes. But given what we've learned about ocean biodiversity, we can't dismiss the possibility that some reports refer to real unknown animals. Bigfoot and the Patterson-Gimlin film. October 20th, 1967. Roger Patterson and Bob Gimlin were horseback riding in Northern California investigating Bigfoot reports. Patterson's camera captured 59 seconds of footage, showing a large bipedal creature covered in dark hair walking through a clearing. The creature turns to look at the camera before continuing into the forest. This is the Patterson-Gimlin film, the most famous piece of evidence for Bigfoot's existence, and one of the most controversial. The figure in the film appears to be a female, showing visible breasts and pronounced musculature. It walks with a distinctive gait, a compliant gait where the knee stays bent throughout the stride, unlike human walking. The creature is estimated at 7 feet tall based on measurements of the film site. The proportions are unusual: longer arms than humans, broader shoulders, a conical head shape. Analysis of the film has been extensive. Supporters point to the creature's muscle movement visible beneath the hair, the natural locomotion, and the proportions that don't match human anatomy. They argue that in 1967, creating a costume with these characteristics would have been beyond available technology. The compliant gait is particularly difficult to fake and would require someone with unusual leg strength and training. Skeptics counter that the film shows someone in a costume. Special effects expert John Chambers claimed involvement in creating such a costume, though this was never proven. Frame-by-frame analysis suggests the figure could be a person in a suit. The film quality is poor enough that definitive conclusions are difficult. What's often overlooked is the footprints. At the film site, clear footprints were found showing dermal ridges, skin patterns like fingerprints. Forensic analysis of casts made from these prints showed consistent ridge patterns that would be extraordinarily difficult to fake. The prints show a flexible mid-tarsal break, suggesting a foot structure different from humans. The bigger question is whether Bigfoot itself is plausible. North America has vast wilderness areas capable of supporting a large omnivore. Black bears are common, weigh 600 pounds, can walk bipedally, and mostly avoid humans. Could a similar-sized primate exist undetected? The main problem is population genetics. A viable breeding population requires hundreds of individuals. This should produce more evidence: bodies, bones, regular sightings. Yet physical evidence remains frustratingly scarce. Thousands of Bigfoot reports exist from diverse geographic regions over many years. Some witnesses are credible: police officers, wildlife experts, experienced outdoorsmen. Most reports are probably misidentifications or hoaxes, but the sheer volume and consistency of descriptions suggest something is being seen. Whether that something is an unknown primate, misidentified bears, or mass delusion remains unresolved. The Yeti and Himalayan mystery primates. High in the Himalayas, Sherpa and Tibetan people describe the Yeti, a large bipedal creature covered in reddish-brown or gray hair that lives above the tree line in remote mountain regions. Western mountaineers have reported encounters and found mysterious footprints in snow. Hair samples have been collected, yet definitive proof remains elusive. DNA analysis has been performed on alleged Yeti samples. A 2017 study examined 9 samples, including bone, hair, and fecal material. Results showed 8 samples were from known animals: bears, dogs, horses. But 1 sample from a Ladakh specimen showed unusual results, matching no database entry and showing genetic markers suggesting an unknown bear species. The Himalayas are home to several bear species, including the Asiatic black bear and Himalayan brown bear. These bears can walk bipedally and leave tracks that in snow could appear humanoid. Many researchers believe Yeti sightings are misidentified bears seen in poor visibility or at a distance. However, some evidence resists easy explanation. Experienced mountaineers familiar with bears report encounters that don't match bear behavior or appearance. Footprints found above 19,000 feet, higher than bears typically venture, show consistent morphology across different sightings. The tracks suggest a bipedal creature with a distinctive gait. The most credible Yeti evidence comes from high-altitude expeditions where witnesses are experienced mountaineers not prone to panic or misidentification. In 1951, British mountaineer Eric Shipton photographed clear footprints at 18,000 feet on the Menlung Glacier. The prints show a 5-toed foot different from human or known animal morphology. Despite decades of analysis, these prints have never been definitively explained. The Himalayan region remains poorly explored in terms of wildlife surveys. New species are discovered regularly in the broader Himalayan ecosystem. The harsh environment and difficult terrain mean vast areas are rarely visited by scientists. Could an unknown primate species exist there? It's not impossible, though the required population size makes it unlikely. More plausibly, Yeti reports might involve rare sightings of known species behaving unusually or a not yet cataloged subspecies of Himalayan bear. The region's isolation, extreme conditions, and cultural traditions create an environment where legend and reality can become intertwined. Chupacabra, from legend to reality. In 1995, a wave of livestock deaths swept through Puerto Rico. Farmers found goats, chickens, and other animals dead and drained of blood with puncture wounds. Witnesses described a creature standing 4 to 5 feet tall, with gray skin, large eyes, and spines down its back. The creature was named Chupacabra, the goat sucker. The Chupacabra legend spread rapidly through Latin America and into the southern United States. Reports varied, but often described either the original spined biped or a hairless dog-like creature. By the early 2000s, several carcasses of alleged chupacabras were recovered in Texas and elsewhere. DNA testing solved part of the mystery. The carcasses were coyotes suffering from severe mange. Mange is a parasitic skin disease that causes hair loss, skin thickening, and grotesque appearance. A healthy coyote and a mange-stricken coyote look dramatically different. The disease also affects behavior, making infected animals desperate enough to attack livestock in daylight, unusual for normally nocturnal coyotes. This explains many chupacabra sightings. People seeing mange-ridden coyotes didn't recognize them as familiar animals. The diseased coyote's altered behavior and appearance created the impression of something unknown and dangerous. This is a clear case of a cryptid explained by known animals in unusual conditions. However, this doesn't explain all chupacabra reports. The original Puerto Rican descriptions don't match mange-ridden canines. Those reports described an upright bipedal creature with spines or quills, nothing like a sick dog. Were these reports mass hysteria, misidentification of something else, or something genuinely unknown that got mixed up with later coyote sightings? The Chupacabra case demonstrates how cryptid legends develop. A genuine mystery in Puerto Rico became conflated with unrelated cases of dead livestock and diseased animals. As the legend spread, people interpreted ambiguous evidence through the lens of the Chupacabra story. Soon, any strange animal sighting or unexplained livestock death was attributed to the creature. What started as a localized mystery became a pan-Latin American legend, incorporating diverse sightings and creating a composite creature that probably never existed as described. Yet something killed livestock in Puerto Rico in 1995, and those original reports remain unexplained, even if subsequent chupacabra sightings were identified as mange-ridden coyotes. The Loch Ness Monster and Lake Cryptids. No cryptid is more famous than the Loch Ness Monster. Since the 1930s, thousands of sightings have been reported. Photographs exist, though most are proven hoaxes or misidentifications. Sonar has detected large, unidentified objects in the loch. Expeditions have searched for decades. Yet Nessie remains unproven. The most comprehensive search occurred in 1987, when Operation Deep Scan used sonar to sweep the entire loch. They detected 3 sonar contacts with large moving objects that didn't match known fish or debris. The contacts suggested something approximately 20 feet long, moving at depth. Investigators couldn't explain them, but also couldn't confirm they were animals. The biological problem with Loch Ness Monster is population viability. A breeding population needs minimum numbers, at least dozens of individuals, more realistically, hundreds. Such a population in a lake would be regularly observed, especially given the intense scrutiny Loch Ness receives. The loch has been surveyed extensively. No viable ecosystem supports creatures of the reported size. Environmental DNA testing performed in 2019 analyzed water samples from throughout the loch. The study detected DNA from all known species in the ecosystem, but found no evidence of large unknown animals. The researchers did find significant eel DNA, suggesting the loch contains many large eels. Could some sightings be of unusually large eels? It's possible, though eels don't explain all reported characteristics. Similar lake monsters are reported worldwide. Champ in Lake Champlain, Ogopogo in Lake Okanagan, Nahuelito in Patagonia. The pattern is consistent: deep, cold lakes with reported sightings of large, unidentified creatures. Most are likely misidentifications of floating logs, waves, swimming birds, or fish. Some might be psychological, people seeing what they expect to see in ambiguous stimuli. The strongest argument against lake monsters is the lack of remains. If these creatures existed and died, their bodies would wash ashore or sink to the bottom, where modern deep scanning technology would detect them. No such remains have been found, despite extensive searching. This suggests either the creatures don't exist or they're present in such small numbers that finding evidence is extraordinarily unlikely. Loch Ness Monster remains a cultural icon regardless of biological plausibility. The legend brings tourism, generates research funding, and captures imagination. Whether Nessie exists is almost secondary to the human need for mystery. Sometimes the search is more important than the discovery. The Mongolian death worm. In the Gobi Desert of Mongolia, local people describe the Olgoi Korkoi, the intestine worm. Reports describe a creature 2 to 5 feet long, thick as a human arm, blood-red in color, with no visible head or tail ends, living in sand dunes. The creature is said to emerge during the hottest months and can spray corrosive venom or deliver electric shocks lethal to humans and camels. Western researchers first documented these reports in the 1920s. Czech explorer Ivan Makarel led expeditions in the 1990s searching for the creature. He collected consistent testimonies from nomads who distinguished the death worm clearly from known desert animals, snakes, lizards, or worms. The descriptions remained remarkably consistent across different regions and informants. The death worm presents several problems. First, the Gobi Desert has been studied extensively. While remote, it's not unexplored. A population of large worm-like creatures should leave evidence: shed skins, trails in sand, bodies. None have been found. Second, the reported abilities, spraying venom and generating electricity, are unusual. Some animals have one ability, but both in combination is unprecedented. Skeptical explanations propose the death worm is a misidentified known animal. Candidates include the Tartar sand boa, a thick-bodied snake that lives in desert sand. The boa is non-venomous, but when threatened can spray musk and adopt a defensive posture that might appear threatening. Another candidate is a large legless lizard species. Neither explanation perfectly fits all reported characteristics. The electric shock claim is particularly problematic. While electric fish exist, no known terrestrial animal generates electricity as a defense mechanism. The venom spraying is more plausible. Some snakes spray venom as a defense. But the combination of traits described doesn't match any known species. One possibility is that the death worm is cultural rather than zoological. Gobi nomads have rich folklore. The death worm might be a cautionary tale about desert dangers, incorporating elements of real animals but exaggerated into legendary form. Over generations, the story could become believed as literal truth, even if it originated as symbolic. Yet the specificity and consistency of reports deserve consideration. If the death worm is purely mythical, why do descriptions remain so uniform? Why do witnesses claim recent sightings rather than relegating it to ancient history? Either something in the Gobi creates these consistent reports, or the creature has some basis in reality, even if the actual animal is less dramatic than described. The globster phenomenon. Occasionally, massive, unidentified carcasses wash ashore on beaches worldwide. These decomposed remains, called globsters, are often unrecognizable, leading to speculation about unknown marine species. The 1896 St. Augustine monster, a 7-ton mass found in Florida, was originally thought to be a giant octopus. The Chilean blob of 2003 was a 14-ton carcass that defied initial identification. Modern DNA analysis has solved many globster mysteries. Most are decomposed whales. Whale blubber, when separated from the skeleton and exposed to seawater, takes on a bizarre appearance: fibrous white tissue that looks nothing like whale. The St. Augustine monster was eventually identified as whale blubber through preserved tissue samples analyzed in 1995. Other globsters have been identified as whale, shark, or other known marine animals in advanced decomposition. The decomposition process and ocean currents can make familiar animals completely unrecognizable. Tissue breaks down in specific ways, creating apparent features, fins, tentacles, fur, that are actually just decomposed flesh and connective tissue. However, some globsters resist identification. Tissue samples show unusual cellular structure. DNA yields no database matches or inconclusive results. In a few cases, the tissue characteristics don't clearly match any known animal. This doesn't mean they're unknown species. Degraded tissue can produce ambiguous results, but it leaves room for uncertainty. The globster phenomenon illustrates how difficult cryptid evidence can be to interpret. Physical remains should provide definitive proof, but decomposition, contamination, and limitations of analysis mean that even bodies can't always answer the question, "What is this?" If we struggle to identify a 7-ton carcass with tissue samples available, how much harder is it to identify a creature seen briefly in poor conditions? Globsters also demonstrate the ocean's ability to surprise us. Even with advanced technology, marine biology remains incomplete. The ocean's vastness and depth mean that rare species might die and wash ashore before living specimens are ever documented. This keeps the possibility of unknown marine cryptids more plausible than terrestrial ones. 10 creatures occupying the space between myth and reality. Some will eventually be proven to exist. Others will fade into legend. A few will remain mysterious indefinitely, lacking evidence to confirm or deny them. What these creatures demonstrate is that the line between discovered and undiscovered is less clear than we'd like to believe. The mountain gorilla, giant squid, and coelacanth remind us that science doesn't know everything. Species can hide in plain sight for decades or centuries. The ocean especially, covering 70% of the planet and largely unexplored, almost certainly harbors animals we haven't documented. But cryptozoology also shows how easily we can be fooled. The Chupacabra turned out to be diseased coyotes. Many lake monster sightings are floating logs or swimming birds. Most Bigfoot evidence is hoaxes or misidentifications. Our brains are pattern-seeking machines. We see meaning in ambiguous stimuli. We remember dramatic stories and forget mundane explanations. The creatures we've investigated today fall on a spectrum. At one end are plausible candidates like orang pendek, sightings in appropriate habitat, credible witnesses, physical evidence that's hard to dismiss. At the other end are unlikely creatures like Mokele-Mbembe, reports that strain biological plausibility and lack physical evidence despite extensive searching. Most cryptids will never be confirmed. They'll remain stories, possible but unproven. Some are probably real animals misidentified. Others are hoaxes or mistakes. A very few might be genuine unknown species waiting for documentation. The challenge is distinguishing which is which without dismissing possibilities too quickly or believing too easily. This is Detective Vera Nash, closing the case files on mysterious creatures. These cases remain open. Evidence exists but isn't conclusive. Sightings continue, but proof remains elusive. Until someone captures, photographs, or finds conclusive physical evidence, cryptids will remain in the gray zone between known and unknown. If you want to investigate more unexplained phenomena, mysterious creatures, and the cases where biology meets mystery, subscribe to this channel. We examine the evidence that keeps cryptozoologists searching and skeptics questioning. What's your theory? Which of these creatures do you think might be real? Have you ever seen something you couldn't explain? Drop your thoughts in the comments. Until next time, remember, absence of evidence isn't evidence of absence. Just because we haven't proven something exists doesn't mean it doesn't. The world is vast, the ocean is deep, and every year, science discovers species we didn't know existed. The question isn't whether unknown animals exist, it's which ones, where, and when we'll find them. Case closed, for now.